You'd think a video game titled Monster Hunter would be fairly straightforward, but most who play it long enough to get their shiny tuchus whooped by an overgrown lizard realize that hunting monsters is not really that simple. With how deep and even obtuse this game can be, some new players may find the various systems and menus and stupid multiplayer functionality to be a bit daunting. So, lucky for you, as the official Sword and Shield captain, I also happen to be one of the greatest monster hunters of all time, according to me. So pack some potions, burn some steak, and prepare to single-handedly waste your whole team's card supply. We're going hunting in the Forbidden Lands. Welcome to a silly little guide to Monster Hunter Wilds. Today you will begin your monster hunting journey, a road paved with the act of slaying monsters so that you can turn them into pants to help you slay more powerful monsters in order to turn them into more powerful pants. And that is literally all the game comes down to, hunting monsters. Now, although everyone calls you a hunter, you're actually playing Batman. And that's because the first most important lesson of Monster Hunter, you become more dangerous with prep time. Once the beautifully rendered but ultimately linear opening cutscene is finished, you will be making one of the most important decisions in the entire game. Choosing your weapon, of which I will have a guide for each one in finer detail as to their quirks and kinks and turnoffs and negotiables. But for brevity, here's how I'll categorize them for now in this very arbitrary rating system that I made up. Much as some of these descriptions may be intimidating or downright disgusting to some of you, that's okay, wouldn't be the first time I've had people and cry and throw up at something hideous I made. Nothing matters and we're all gonna die one day. A good rule of thumb I can say for now is to treat the weapons more like fighting game characters. Each one has its own moveset and combos and strengths and weaknesses that will require some time to get to know. I do recommend trying every single one of these weapons, which you can do immediately at the nearby target barrel, or in the training area located in the camp later on. And even should you pick one that only has a brief honeymoon phase, you can always swap it out from your tent at any time. My advice, the best weapon in the game is whichever one you have the most fun using. It doesn't matter what tier lists are made, what kill times are recorded, what the most recent flashy video you saw of someone absolutely nailing a super ass-kicking eardrum destroyer that you're probably never gonna recreate. You should pick and learn the weapon that speaks to you the most. A monster hunter that loves the weapon they're using is a good monster hunter. Now, the second thing to consider is your armor, and although you don't have many options at the beginning, these two sets of armor are going to be more important than pizza rolls and Halo 3 at a sleepover. And that is because, although defense is good and useful, equally as, if not more useful, are the passive skills that come with each piece of armor that you wear. In this case, the leather set has Botanist, which yields you more items gathered from herbs, nuts, bugs, and mushrooms, and the chainmail set has Geologist, which yields you more items gathered from bones, binding spots, and special trade items. Yep, part of the preparation includes venturing out into the wilds and picking the land dry like the world's most dedicated Roomba. Some of the interactables outside are used up immediately, like Vigor Wasps and Wiggly Lichies, but everything else is important crafting materials for consumables or certain armors and weapons. Herbs, mining outcrops, random bugs on the side of the road, little critters doing what they do on the Discovery Channel, and feces. That is not a joke. Anything and everything is useful in some way, and it's always good to keep your storage box stocked up. So between every few hunts, it'd be a good idea to go out and gather. One day, you will run out of knollberries, and you will only have yourself to blame. And that is why these two armor sets and these sets of skills are some of the best to have and use for the early game. And the late game, you will always have a need to gather. Absolutely swap out to something more catered to combat when you're hunting a monster, but it's always handy to keep a loadout of one or both of them at the ready for when you want to go pick flowers. After each gathering session, be sure to chuck all of that stuff into your box so that you can free up your inventory, be it for more gathering or useful items for the hunt. I highly recommend making an item loadout so you can quickly swap out your hoard of trash with items you'll know you'll always need. Try to build something specifically catered to the monster you're hunting, like fire resistance against a Rathalos, or the fact that the only time most men get flowers is at their funeral against Lala Barina. Keep this in mind, as it's going to be a very important aspect for the entire rest of the game. Wearing armor that has skills and defenses specifically for a certain type of monster will make the difference between impressing Gemma and depressing Gemma, and trust me, after seeing how some of you play, the worst she can say is not just no. Now look at you, all inventory full of supplies and armor prepped and ready for whatever life can throw at you besides a devastating financial crisis. Hopefully the next monster on the to hunt list isn't something like the salary cutter or something. Ah, fuck! Oh, one thing I forgot, eating. It's important to always make sure that you eat before you head out. This will give you bonus health and stamina and also some temporary buffs that'll be of great help during your hunt, due to being a satisfied, well-maintained, healthy human being, as opposed to a depressed pile of flesh and bones who's on their 5th Red Bull and 3rd hour attempting to write a single email. This can be anything from bonus damage to elemental resistances to even saving you from what would be a fatal attack from the monster. Make sure to bring the ingredients best suited to the target you plan to hunt, or most likely, in your case, whatever ingredients you happen to have sitting around, like some Pop-Tarts or something. Even even if it's just rations, always eat before a hunt. Now that you're on the hunt and ready for your inevitable triple carding, here are the important things to keep in mind while out in the wilds. The Monster Hunter Watch! Unlike your office workspace boss, the Hunters Guild is sure to supply you with a few helpful items right off the bat. With default controls, pressing left on the D-pad will allow you to find these items in your sacred pouch. These are free to take and use, or to just throw into your hoard back at camp. Note the items with the official guild crest. These are supply items and are temporary and will only last for that hunt, so it's good to use these before you start aiding into your own personally gathered supplies. Instead of just going in and mindlessly slapping the monster like it used your good razor to shave its nether regions, try to take your time and learn the monster's moveset. Just like you, every monster has a limited move pool with animated tells and signs for when it's going to do a certain attack. For instance, when this Rathalos rears its head back, I know it's about to shoot a fireball. Or when this Tashagama stands on its hind legs, I know that it's only got a 2-pair and is absolutely bluffing. Each monster also has a set of weaknesses and resistances to the various elements and ailments that your weapons and items can inflict. All of this and more can be learned by checking out your large monster field guide. Do not neglect this little book. It's got so much information that it's basically a wiki in your back pocket. It even has information about monster parts can be broken, and not only will they drop delicious extra materials and increase the chances of rarer materials to be rewarded at the end of the quest, they'll also sometimes disable the monster's abilities in some way. Breaking Gypsaros's horn stops it from flashing. Cutting Quemetris's tail prevents it from making fire at all. In a similar vein, some parts of the monster are harder than others, and hitting them will deal less damage. And in some cases, depending on your weapon's current sharpness, risk your attacks bouncing off entirely, completely interrupting your combo like a
This video is brought to you by you, giving me money. Thank you.
If you're struggling with a monster, this is where your lovingly gathered supply of items comes in. You can absolutely apply the death by 1,000 cuts method of dispatching each of your targets, but just think about it. How much more annoying would it be if the monster had the ability to unplug your controller for about 10 seconds? Traps will keep them still, flash pods will confuse them and even knock flying monsters out of the sky. Barrel bombs are a consistent means of raw damage and a great wake-up prank to post on YouTube.
Hello?
And all of those special curatives will be needed for the various horrible status effects that will be inevitably inflicted on you during your time in the Forbidden Lands. Antidotes for poisons, cleansers for when you're rooted in place, energy drinks for when you get real eepy. Aw, who needs a little blankie with cookies and milk? Keep in mind, you can only bring along a limited number of certain items. But if you do want more, you can also bring in the individual crafting ingredients for a certain item so that you can just make more for yourself mid-hunt. When I said everything is useful, I really do mean everything. Most of the time, the monsters will be neutral, using their basic attacks and relying on old, tired pickup lines. But just like you, the monster can run out of stamina, be it naturally over time from just fighting without a break, or after taking a significant amount of blunt force trauma. Once they are exhausted, as indicated by the hungry monster icon pulsing on the minimap, they'll exhibit the typical characteristics of someone in their 30s. Their movements will slow, they'll stand in place doing nothing for longer, drool will leak out of their mouth, and they'll have the strange urge to go back and play We Love Katamari again. The monster will also stay longer in trap, so it's best to save them for when the monster is exhausted to maximize their effectiveness. On the opposite end, occasionally the monster will get extremely pissed off and enter an enraged state, indicated by the bright red eye on the minimap, and begin to exhibit the typical characteristics of society whenever it sees someone in their 30s having fun. It'll scream a lot, sometimes change color, pull new attacks out of nowhere, making you wonder where the heck they got the idea from, and generally be a lot more aggressive. The most obvious indicator a monster is enraged is there's usually puffs of smoke coming from their face, showing the sheer unbridled seething the monster is going through after you told it that the Happy Meal doesn't come with a toy anymore. They still do, but think about how mad that sentence made you just now. And as you can guess, certain tools and traps are far less effective when a monster's pissed. Basic rule of thumb is that you can and should still go up against a monster when it's enraged, but extra caution is advised, like bringing up your favorite anime on a first date. Killing a monster is not the only way to complete the hunt. Unless it's an Elder Dragon, which is immune to traps, you can capture a monster in order to end a hunt early by putting it in a trap and throwing 2 trank bombs while it's locked down. You'll know a monster's ready to capture when it's near death, noted by when it starts to limp, and its icon on the minimap will have a pulsing skull. There's a couple of reasons to do this. Firstly, captured monsters have different drop rates on certain materials. So if there's something that's been eluding you worse than the motivation to do your laundry, trying to capture instead of kill might be a good way to increase your odds of finding it. Secondly, it's a good option in case the hunt feels like Thanksgiving with the family and you just want to get it over with quicker so you don't have to listen to Uncle Jerry's thoughts on minorities for another hour. And third, it's the only option if Dodogama ever makes a return, and if he does and I see so much as one slaying, I will personally curse you so that all your stickers will forever have an annoying little fold or air pocket too small to push out the side. And that should cover all the major parts of a monster hunt. Always remember to carve after a kill and throw all your non-essential items back into storage before you start another quest. The last thing you want to do is to look for your potions mid-hunt and suddenly have to swim through a squirrel's life savings. Take your spoils to the smithy to make yourself stronger. Check your field guide for information about a monster's capabilities, resistances, weaknesses, and sexual orientation, just in case, you never know. And most importantly, never stop hunting. Crafting more powerful armor and weapons will only get you so far. The biggest factor in your success is going to be your own skill and knowledge as a hunter. The more you keep at it, the more you, the player, will level up and become stronger. And now you know the basics of Monster Hunter Wilds. Have fun!